Hello and welcome. Welcome to the Permission Mission Show. My name is Mary McElhatton. I am your host today. We have a very special guest and a very important show today that we will be honoring the life of a child of Karina. We promised you a great show today, and it is about infant loss. I want to just put it out there for any of you who have lost a child. This is the show you want to be listening today. And how you will listen to it is on WWDBTV.com in the Facebook, and also Permission Mission Facebook, and also Mary McElhatton Facebook. So we are going to openly, first let me introduce you to my dear friend, Karina Crosley.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And thank you for coming. I know that we work together. So I want you to know out there, live audience, that we work together. I met Karina several years ago. She was my neighbor. And one of the interesting things, Karina, was, when I had met you, I had no idea that you had lost a child, correct?
Yep.
Can you tell me, is that common, when you meet new people? Obviously you just don't come out and say it, but what kind of finally allowed you to tell me that you had a child that had passed away at birth?
I think working with people that were losing someone or were about to lose someone really helped me to, come forward and say, I've had a loss of my own as well.
Yeah, because I remember the moment, when I was like, oh my goodness, you have lost a child.
Yeah.
And it just touched my heart. Most people do not have permission to actually say that, I lost a child, because it seems to be so heavy. And what we want to do here is we are giving permission to release that heaviness of that weight, right? Because take us back to, tell us your story, Karina. Tell us about Adriana, Noel, and what you want them to know. Because I know that there's somebody out there listening who is sitting in your seat, who maybe have not been able to go, I have a daughter. Her name is Adriana, and this is her story. So please take us back to that day.
So I was young, and I think maybe that was part of, keeping silent, just because I was very young at that time when I, got pregnant with her, and everything was fine up until the very end, and I remember I just was, having pain, and at that time I was, alone at the house. So it was like, okay, can I go through this pain? I'm just going to fight it. I'm going to fight it. And then finally I called my mom. I went over to her house, and things escalated very quickly from there. She was born at my mom's house on the couch, and it was just her and I there at that time. And it was in a very small town. So it took a while for the ambulance to get there.
Wow.
And and we just kind of had her wrapped up in a towel. And, my mom was doing the best she could to kind of hold her, but also take care of me as well. And by the time the ambulance got there, I feel like she just needed help breathing. And, she passed. And I remember being in the ambulance at that point, and they said, do you want to hold her one more time? So I held her for a while, and I remember, just examining her body and her little toes and her fingers. And her hair, and she was perfect. She was absolutely perfect.
She came from you. Of course she was. She was beautiful, right? Because you're beautiful, Karina. And that had to have been really hard, yet so beautiful at the same time, right? You probably were experiencing the hardest of hardest moments to one of the most precious moments.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
and this is why we're giving permission to talk about
Yeah.
this and bring her to a person who mattered, to a life that mattered, even if it was just for a few moments to a few days to a few months or years, right?
Yep.
Because we know that there's no age preference.
Yep.
So you counted her toes.
Yep, I
and
did.
her fingers.
And I think that was a beautiful thing. Like now that I look back at it, is I brought her in. You know, you bring someone in, or you are with someone, you know, at when they're alive, and then you're there at their passing moment. And so that was kind of like a beautiful thing, you know, later on, that I realized that I was there, you know, at, you know, her coming into the world, and then her, you know, leaving the world and saying goodbye to her. So I'm glad that, you know, I was able to have that time with her at the very end.
Yeah.
And I remember they said, okay, well, you know, we're going to take her to the funeral home. And at that time, I didn't really know what that meant. I just remember my body was at that point kind of going into shock. And I remember they said, because of my blood levels and my blood pressure, they said, we have the helicopters on the way. So I remember they took her away, and I got transported about halfway from Alamo, Nevada to Las Vegas.
Little Alamo, town of Alamo. I'm familiar with that. Some of you may or may not. It is on the map.
Yes.
Okay. And
very small town. And I remember hearing the helicopter, and I just remember being so scared. And I'll never forget, just along the way, how everyone was like, you're going to be okay. Everything's fine. And, you know, being transported on the helicopter, I remember 2 paramedics. I was just like, you know, I'm so scared. I'm so scared. And I don't think that I was scared. I knew that I had already lost Adriana. I think I was just scared of like being transported in that helicopter, and like what was going to happen to me now. Because why are they transporting me like this? I should be maybe home, like resting, or, you know, thinking about her loss at that moment. But I wasn't. I was kind of freaked out about, you know, so much commotion going on.
Sure.
And I remember the paramedic in the helicopter looking at me and saying, it's okay, everything's going to be okay. And then I remember waking up at the hospital, and that was, you know, trying to like just soak it all in, right?
Up to that point, had anybody had a, and we're going to break here in just a moment.
You know, we have a question in the chat room.
Oh, wonderful. We have questions coming in the chat room, and
Right.
also, okay.
And the question is, Karina, how long ago did this happen?
She was born July 31st, 2005. So this past last year was 18 years since I had lost her.
Wow. So my question, and thank you callers or our people sending questions into the chat. Thank you for that. If you do want to make a call in, our number is 702-992-3207. And also, yes, use the chat. Any questions we welcome. Karina is here bravely sharing her child's story. And this is what Permission Mission's all about, is to be able to help all of us out there who have experienced loss. And if we haven't, you want to learn from this as well. Because my question to you, Karina, is, had you experienced any loss before Adriana?
I had not.
Did anyone ever talk to you about mortality or death and dying?
Never.
And that's why we're doing this, right? Is because I too, you know, with my brother when he passed away, and I shared this in other shows, it's like, why had I not heard about this before, or had any indication that this happens if a death had never happened closely to you, right? You hear about it on the news, or you hear about it with other people. However, we're in this together. So to be educated about it and to have some heads up on it would bring a small amount of comfort. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Yep. Because I feel because it wasn't talked about it or, brought up ever about maybe even someone close to my family losing someone. I'm sure they just never expressed their feelings about it or talked about it. Maybe it would have given me permission to say, you know what, I did lose a child, because it took me 10 years to talk about her death, or to even anybody knew me after her death never knew that I had lost a child. Even people that were close to me didn't know.
They didn't know.
They didn't know. I didn't want to talk about it. And it's not because her life didn't matter. It was just, maybe I didn't know how to express it at that time. And, just say, it wasn't on top of a conversation to say, you know what, oh yeah, I lost a daughter when she was born. But now I can freely say,
you're doing a wonderful job.
That, her life did matter, even if it was for a short time. Her death was painful, and it is painful, and not to have any of that guilt as well. I did bury her up in my hometown where, she was born. And when I go up there, I go up there, about every month, 2 months. And I don't go visit her grave every time I go up there either. And it's okay, because I know that even though I don't go and visit her every time I go up there, her life still did matter to me, and it did impact my life. So I did, she does have a final resting place. And, I hope to one day maybe even be there with her. If it goes that way,
Sure.
or somebody close to my family with her, I feel like that they would like it.
And Karina and I, so we are people who do sit with families daily, daily. And we make sure that people are well informed, because like Karina's sharing about her daughter being in Alamo, Karina can, now that she's talking openly about this with your family, with other people, it allows us to think about end in mind of where we want to be, if it's with our child or our family member, because we work with families at the time a death has occurred, and we also work a lot with families to prearrange their wishes, so that we eliminate all the guesswork. And there's a lot involved that people don't know. And also, if it's not spoken about, then we certainly don't have any idea what to do. So we're going to come back after this break, and we've got more to talk about, more to share about this beautiful, beautiful Adriana Noel. And also, for those of you who are watching, thank you. Stay tuned. And please, any questions that you have, put them in the chat room, or you're welcome to call in as well. 702-992-3207. That's 3207. Thank you, and we'll be right back.
Hi, my name is Edgar Alejandro. I'm the co-founder of Rising Again Productions. So we've been here in Vegas producing films for the past couple of years, and we've seen our fair share of studios. We've worked in our fair share of studios, and to be honest, WWDBTV has been our favorite by far. John is so welcoming. The space is wonderful. It's perfect for what we need. We've had rehearsals here, we've had callbacks here, we've had table reads here. So if you're a Vegas creative, or really just a creative coming into Vegas, definitely check out this space, chat with John. I think you'll find that this studio has everything that you'll need as well.
Most business owners struggle with the following issue. How do I brand my business to get noticed? Double 8 Design Studio helps businesses by designing brands that boost confidence, look and feel timeless, stand out from the competition, and attract all the right clients. Whether you are in need of a new brand, upgraded design elements, or completely redesign your current brand, Double 8 Design Studio has fully customized packages for your business. Call Chelsea McKendrick at 702-525-3334 and visit www.chelsea.com. WWDBTV.com. Let 88 Design Studio give you a brand new outlook for your business.
Welcome back. Welcome back to Permission Mission. My name is Mary McElhat, and I'm your host today. And I also, along with my very dear friend, Karina, who we are honoring her daughter who passed away in 2005, Ariana Noel. Adriana Noel. My apologies. Oh my gosh, I knew that. I'm nervous along with you. We are weathering this tough conversation together, but I think the goal is the same. Karina wants to inspire those out there who have lost a child so that no words go unspoken. We are better prepared for when this happens. And then also just to be able to not carry the guilt.
Yeah.
You know, the guilt of thinking that we're doing something wrong when we do speak about a topic of mortality. A lot of us have gone through it. You know, I miscarried, and you know, mortality is mortality. You know, when you feel the life or the news of a child, it's all of a sudden instantly exciting, and then all of a sudden it's, you know, in my case, 2 miscarriages early on, the life wasn't there, but it didn't not matter, right?
Yeah.
And so, tell me, we were talking about how you plan to possibly, you know, be laid to rest with Adriana when that time comes, or have a family member, because the importance of making sure that, right, we think about the end in mind.
Yeah.
Do you find, Karina, that based on what you do every day, do you find that people are in the same seat as you as far as not talking about the loss of their child?
I think so, yes. I think when I open up, they're able to say, you know what, my friend did, or I did, my mom did, my sister did, and I feel like it makes a connection between those that I'm talking with and those that are talking to me back.
Yeah. And you feel their sense of relief?
Absolutely. Yep. Because I give them permission to say it's okay that it happened to you, because you know, we go through so many emotions after, you know, a death occurs. There's, you know, sadness, or maybe even just confusion. I remember sitting across from the director's desk and him bringing out little caskets for me to pick. And I remember just kind of being confused, and kind of like an outer body experience of, why am I picking out these caskets? It wasn't emotionally, things were not connecting just yet. I knew that I had lost her, but it was becoming more and more real. And then it went from picking out her casket to, okay, now go pick out her plot. Where do you want her to be laid to rest at? So it was kind of just one step after another. And when it was all done, and, you know, I went home, and at that time, because there was so much to do and I had been in the hospital for a few days, it was then time to go home, and I had everything already set up for her to be born. I had her at 37 weeks. So she was right there, and everything was done. And so I had to unpack the dressers, and I had to, you know, undo the crib, and that was tough, you know. And then with certain things, it's a tough topic, but, you know, with, you know, milk coming in, and like there was so many things afterward, you know, weeks after, that you kind of just say, okay, like, what's next? And then when it was all over, you know, I feel like I was like, okay, you know what, it's done, and I don't want to talk about it anymore. It's too hurtful. It's too painful. There's so many details, and I just didn't talk about it. And then it was I did have another child after Adriana, Harley. And when Harley was about 3 or 4 years old, my mom said, I think you should take her to go visit Adriana at her grave. I want to say she was probably 4 at that time. And I remember I was just, okay, here we go. I'm taking my daughter to go visit her sister's grave. And, you know, like I said, she was 4 years old at that time. And it was just that bittersweet moment of, okay, you know, this is your sister, and this, you know, she was born and she died. And so that was me introducing Harley that, you know, she had a sister all those years later.
Oh gosh, Karina, I can totally relate because my mom had a you know, it's so important for siblings to know about their sibling that passed. Because it's like there's a void, you know, and I know that my mom losing a child before I was born, you know, she talked a little bit about my older sister, but never really talked a lot about her. So that had to have been so precious for you as a mother to say, like, there's this other part of life that happened before you. Were you afraid a lot with Harley?
Yes, I was. I thankfully found a good doctor. And I was afraid with Harley from the beginning. One thing about Adriana is that Adriana was a twin.
Okay.
So at around like 3 months, I remember I was just having pain and just, I mean, at that point, I mean, I really didn't know what was happening. And my mom took me, you know, to this little tiny hospital 45 minutes north of Alamo. And the doctor examined me and he said, you know, you have 2 babies, but you're losing, you know, the second baby.
Jeez.
And it was scary because it's like, okay, you know, I knew that I was pregnant, but I didn't know that I was pregnant with twins. And so I was in the hospital and I passed the first twin, and then Adriana, she stayed strong and, you know, made it all the way through. But so that's why I was kind of scared with Harley, because I said, you know, are things gonna escalate, you know, at 3 months, 4 months pregnant of losing, you know, another child. And I held on to Adriana, you know, at the first pregnancy, because I said, oh my God, I didn't realize I guess I did lose another baby, but, you know, let's hold on to this one. And then, you know, I lost her. But with Harley, I did have a lot. I made sure to express at my doctor's appointments how I was feeling, the problems I had before. You know, I think that's one of the things that's really important is just being open with a doctor as well and saying, you know, I was pregnant with twins. I lost the first twin. The second one survived, but only survived at the very end of, you know, the day she was born. And so with Harley at the very end of months really of my pregnancy with her, I had a nurse come out to my house and give me, you know, steroid shots just to really make sure that my uterus was nice and strong to be able to, you know, carry the baby full term. And I'll never forget when I was going into labor with her early in the morning, and I was trying to blow dry my hair, and I blew out the power in the house. And so I was like, okay, well, it is what it is. You know, I'm going to go looking as is. And
as beautiful as ever.
and I get there, and, you know, it's happening, you know, quickly. And I'll never forget, I was in labor with her, and I remember yelling at my doctor, get her out, because I was in pain.
Well, in pain, and you wanted to have her.
And he said, you need to calm down because she's not out yet. She's still in. And seconds later, I remember just hearing this loud scream and just crying. And I knew that was God's way of telling me, you're keeping this child, because she wasn't even fully born yet. And she was just screaming as loud as
Already
she could.
screaming,
Yeah.
making her entrance to be known.
Yes.
Aw.
Yeah. So that was something special. And Harley's my only, living daughter, and she means the world to me.
I know that firsthand. Our daughters are the same age. They go to they did go to the same high school, and Harley
Elementary,
middle school. Yeah, we've been through the girl drama. We are surviving it
Yeah.
together, and Harley is such a beautiful young lady. As you've done a wonderful job, and even considering, just the hardships that came along with losing a child,
Yeah.
to successfully love another child and nurture another child. I mean, my mom, held it in for 62 years. I shared that on a show. Permission Mission is actually just in honor of all those who have passed before us, but mainly it came about by my mom telling me that she had permission to finally share the loss of her first daughter,
Yeah.
and how important it was for her not to hold on to that. If she were to pass, that would have went with her instead of being out here. So what a wonderful tribute today to Adriana.
And I think just also talking about it, when I tell families that I meet, or I'm having a conversation and I say I lost a daughter, the first thing they say to me is, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. And I say, you know what? It's okay. You don't need to be sorry. It's just something that, I went through, and we're all in the same boat. We're all going to experience, or maybe have already experienced, a death at some point in our life.
Mm-hmm.
And to not be sorry, for the death,
That brings up a great question. What would be something, because we all are very uneducated about this topic.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you do. You're like, I'm sorry, kind of feels like, did I do something wrong? And
Yeah.
nobody did anything wrong. Obviously, when a death occurs, it's most times out of our control. What would be something that someone could say that would feel okay for losing a child? Or
Yeah. I think if you're going to say sorry, I think maybe just ending it with, I'm sorry that happened to you. Not so much, I'm sorry, that you're sorry. Just, I'm sorry that happened to you. And, that it's okay to go through the emotions that person is going to go through. When meeting with families, I always say, if you feel something, feel it, don't suppress it. Just because I was suppressing it. I was suppressing it for 10 years, and it weighs heavy on your shoulders, just to keep that in. And, losing someone, or a baby, you're just there for that person. Can I get you anything? Are you okay right now? How are you feeling? That type of stuff.
yeah, a check-in.
Yeah.
Like, we do a lot of check-in. We do a lot of care calls with our families because we do care.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us who work for the largest funeral home here in town, we have experienced firsthand loss. So I think the advantage that we have to help people feel at ease, or feel more comfortable is with us, is because we have experienced it in a way that we understand. Like, it's tough, it's hard, it's but it doesn't have to stay that way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
I mean, just by speaking her name and speaking the life that she lived, it makes a difference.
It does. It does make a difference. And it doesn't make the grief go away, or that pain. But yeah, I mean, just saying her name, Adriana Noel, And
And I'm so sorry I got it wrong a little while
oh,
ago. I
that's
feel really
okay.
bad about that. She knows though, right? She
mhm.
knows, you know.
Yep.
That's all that
And I
matters.
feel like just there's that connection with someone as well when they tell me they've lost somebody or whoever it may be. I always say, what was their name? You know?
If they were to say to you, tell me more about her, would that be okay? For someone to actually say, how did it feel being a mom, or what, just, I mean, what color was her hair?
Mm-hmm.
Things like that. Would that be okay?
I
Because
think
I often wonder if a person would be okay to
mhm.
talk more in detail. I mean, I've said to somebody, tell me about your 18-year-old who's been on
Mhm.
the earth for a while, and they love to share more about their child. Like me,
Yeah.
my mom, tell me more about Sheila, Mom. What color were her eyes? And she was 9 months old. What do you suggest for a person who is afraid to talk to somebody who's just lost a child and fear of saying the wrong thing?
Yeah. I think just saying that, you may not have got to play that role for very long, but it still mattered even for that short period of time. And up until maybe after I guess I was a mom when I was pregnant with her, but I never got to fulfill and play out the actions of actually being a mom. And that's one of the hard things too, because you obviously when you get pregnant, you prepare yourself to them being a toddler or a teenager and then an adult, and then it doesn't happen. So I think just being okay with that role not being fulfilled as a mother, or as if you are the father, of that role of being a father not being fulfilled. It's okay that it didn't happen. It doesn't make that loss any less great.
I can see that sometimes people think, right, just in general, just in conversations with other people, where, again, like a miscarriage is kind of considered like it's okay because that's going to happen. But yet the person who miscarried, it's heavy still on their heart because it was a life, almost a life, like you shared about not being able to carry out the lifespan of a life with a child, raising a child. Do you feel that, I mean, you've been talking about Adriana now for 10 years. Do you feel, or now that it was 10 years before you spoke about her, now that you're doing it, do you see a difference in your family? Like, as far as bringing her more alive, like talking, visiting, going whenever you feel the need to go, and not feeling guilty about, people think you have to go all the time. And that's not the case. I mean, everybody grieves differently. And I'm sure that everybody gets through all of this differently too, in their own time.
Absolutely. I feel like, and that's one of the things is at your own time, go, as it feels, better for you or what's right for you. I would probably have to say that my sisters and my mom probably visited her and have been more than I have. And I will go on those special days, whether it's Easter, Christmas, if I'm able to, travel up there, or, her birthday. But if I'm not there, she's in my thoughts.
Sure.
And so I think it's just about, even though I don't physically go and where she's at, just knowing that, I'm the one who went through it, and I'm the one who, at some points it's still hard to think, I wonder what she would have been like, but you can't go back on that, because, then I wouldn't have Harley, right? So, everything, happens for a reason, and things happen in our life, whether we like it or not. And so we just kind of have to, take that step forward and just kind of go through the card that has been dealt to us.
Well, you've certainly made an impact in many people's lives for what you do today because of, understanding a loss. And Karina sits with all kinds of families, and she's wanting to sit with more kinds of families again to get the conversation started and make sure that people are better prepared so that they can find the peace in the passing and also find the peace in preparing. Because like she said, I mean, we all got a deck of cards that are going to be dealt to us, and no one's getting out of this. And if we openly talk together and discuss this important role in life or event, it is so much better to have it ahead of time than having it all alone. And Karina, I love what you said about like in people's own time, like let people grieve in their own time, because there's this expectation sometimes that people should grieve the way a person grieves.
Yeah.
And like you shared about, like you go when it's the time for you to go, and other people go visit her more often, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't mean anything other than you experienced it. Somebody outside of you is experiencing it as well in a different way.
Yep.
And none is harder or easier than the other.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. And I think it's the same way, maybe within cemeteries, you see maybe children or grandchildren going to go visit, maybe the parents of their parents, and they didn't know them as well as they did, right? Or maybe they never met them at all, but they still want to go and honor them. And those person that that was really close, maybe they don't go as often. They go, but not as much as those other ones. So I feel like every family is different, and sometimes you have those people that say, you know what, you can't go, but I'm gonna go ahead and go for you and honor that person for you and go take them flowers or just be present in their place of where they're resting.
So again, we cannot do this wrong when we're doing something like this, talking. That's kind of been our thing in what we do daily is, we can't get this wrong. The only way that we can get it wrong is by not talking, not opening up and not sharing about what's going on for a person going through this. And I think the acceptance part, right? Because I remember for years just thinking, oh, this happens to other families, but not me. And then all of a sudden it happens to us. And we had never heard about it before.
Yeah. Yep. That's true.
So it's like a double whammy, double whammy of, oh my gosh, what just happened? Not having any education about it.
Yeah. And I think just having that open conversation with those around us, even when I'm at dinner with somebody, friends, maybe I just met, and they find out what I do, I don't put it on myself. I just say, have you talked with your family about what you want or your wishes are? Just because I always tell the families that I meet, when death occurs, you're not thinking about, oh, do they have prayer cards or flowers on their prearrangement? The first thing you're thinking about is, oh my gosh, who's gonna take care of the body? Who do I need to call in order for them to walk me through on what happens next? And or even if you don't do anything at all, just having the conversation and then being educated on who to call or what your wishes are. I think it took a little bit of time for my mom to tell me what she wanted. It's kind of like why are you talking about this kind of thing.
Putting somebody on the hot seat, but we're all in the hot seat.
Yeah. And, I said, okay. And I knew she didn't want it. So I threw the word in there, cremation. And she's like, no, don't cremate me. Do not cremate me. And
So
I said, okay, so you're telling me you want to be buried then. Yes. And with socks.
With
So
socks. I'm going to have pajamas on. Mom's going to have socks on.
Yeah.
Awesome. Hey, these are the things we get to talk about when we're talking about them
Exactly.
ahead of time.
Yeah.
Well, that's very brave of you, and very brave of anybody else out there. Last week I had, you know, let the tip to be known of talking to your family about cremation and burial. And I hope that you did the homework because it is the hardest question. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
And in what way? I mean, because when a person explained how it's harder to not have told a family member whether they want cremation or burial.
Yeah, I think it's, tough on the families that come in. When they come in, a director is going to ask you about 180 questions. And one of the first ones is are we doing burial or cremation arrangements today? And when a family kind of sits back and they're looking at each other, through all this that's going on with the death, and everyone is looking around the room, and maybe one person is saying, well, I think she wanted to be buried. Yeah, but you know what? Let's just cremate her because it's probably the easiest solution. And maybe one person is sitting silently being like, I heard her maybe talking about stories or this or that, and she wanted burial. So it's important for not only everyone to be on the same page, but as well as speaking on what you want for yourself, because one of the things is those left behind, they're the ones that are going to be asking themselves, did I do the right thing? Is this what mom wanted? And also just talking about it, because obviously people will emotionally overspend, and sometimes that's not the wishes of those left behind. They want something very simple that still honors their life, but without going over the top. And not going over the top doesn't necessarily means that you're downplaying their life. That's just how they want to be celebrated. So I think having that open conversation as well, and just, I think that's the easiest one, burial or cremation. And because that then falls into a category of, okay, this is what needs to be taken care of. And then questions are answered because if it's a burial spot or a burial, where is that burial spot going to be?
Yeah. Cremation does give a lot more flexibility as far as placement, right? However, burial is something that we'd want to help you get soon so that you just have a resting place, whether it's with family members,
Yeah.
whether it's creating a space for your family in the future. These are the important questions that are included in that 100, and I think it's like 124 or more. It feels like way more than that to be answered on the worst day of a person's life. And we're just simply here bringing the conversation alive with Permission Mission platform to not feel the guilt or shame of a loss that has already occurred. And also just being
educated. I feel like education, I always tell people, just let me educate you on what happens when death occurs and what to expect. And it doesn't make the grief go away, but it just makes that day a little bit easier.
So there you have it. The next week's show, Karina, thank you.
Yes,
thank you so
thank
much
you.
for just shedding light on, like I said, you had shared just a beautiful day and the hardest day of your life. And please know that we will be live back here next week at 11 Pacific time at the WWDBTV.com. I am in my heart right now with all of this information, a little bit choked up, but we'll get through it. And do we have any questions? I believe we have.
We have a question in the chat room.
Okay, we have a question.
How can somebody contact you?
Beautiful. Thank you. How you can contact Karina, her number is listed in the chat. Karina Crosley is a pre-planning advisor and also someone who is absolutely open to talking with anyone who has lost a child. She's also speaks Spanish, which is a beautiful thing to help our Spanish families here in Las Vegas. And the website for Permission Mission is permissionmission.com. There is an inquiry link that you'll just put your information in there. We will definitely follow back up with you. And for all of you out there listening to today's show, please know that this is just the start of many.
Yeah.
We are not going to stop until we have normalized the conversation of mortality so that we can feel freed of all the weight that tends to happen when a death occurs, just simply because of lack of understanding. And we're understanding now today that it is okay.
Yep.
And that Adriana's life matters, and that we never, I love what my mom says, and I'll just share this with everybody. My mom always tells us, listen, when I'm not physically there with you, I'm going to be in your heart. So I just share that with my kids. Listen, if I don't come home today, where will I be? And they're like, right here, Mom.
Yeah.
So they're with us right here. The next week's show is going to be about it's the importance of when we die and not how we die. So you want to stay tuned in for next week's show. I'm going to kind of leave it at this by a great quote. I think it's appropriate, by Martin Luther King Jr. And it doesn't matter how long you live, but how well you did it. So thank you again for joining us live on the Permission Mission show. We'll see you back here next week.